That looks good. All right, welcome, welcome. All right, looking good on this end. Let's do it. Do we have a go from tech? One sec. All right, excellent. Waiting for the green light. And we're good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the King County Equity Now press conference, where we're unveiling the Black Brilliance Project, the largest Black-led public health and safety research project in the state, creating over 100 jobs here in Washington State. Today, we are announcing the formation of our Black-led community-based research team, and includes over 100 members total. We onboarded our first 50 last week. Our partnership includes Black-led community organizations, including Bridging Cultural Gaps, East African Community Services, Freedom Project, Wa Na Wari, and King County Equity Now. And the team really has laid the groundwork for true participatory budgeting process in 2021. So that's about crafting real solutions to deliver equity now. Our research design for this project includes lowering barriers to participation, including not only just creating jobs during one of the hardest dual pandemics of racial injustice and COVID-19, but also being able to meet communities' needs for important resources like internet, childcare, food, hygiene, PPE, et cetera. But we'll get into more of that in a little bit. First, I'm going to turn it over to my second in command, Latanya Severe, who is wonderful. She will talk to us about some of the highlights from the last week. We'll turn it back over to me, and I'll touch on a couple of brief points. And then we will hear from our community researchers, which we're so excited to introduce to y'all. Thank you so much for joining us, and Latanya, take us away.
All right, I'm Latanya Severe, she, her pronouns. I'm with the King County Equity Now research team, working with Sean as one of the leads, also representing Plum Research Services. We have onboarded the first 50 community researchers since last week's veto override. Mm-hmm. The team on the ground now represents the diversity of Black peoples in Seattle. The team spans youth to elders, people whose families have lived in the Central District for generations, to new immigrants and refugees, and diverse expertise from educators, entrepreneurs, tech, artists, healthcare workers, domestic violence advocates, and people with lived experience with every stage of the criminal legal system, including incarceration, housing specialists, and retirees. People with disabilities, people across the gender spectrum, several multiple multilingual teams. We are very proud of the diversity of our research team. It is exciting to be on track to create over 100 living wage jobs as part of this effort, including a pathway to medical coverage for some community members who have been uninsured. We have been working nonstop for the last 4 months to do the project with no funding, all on volunteer labor and very little sleep. We are excited to provide living wage jobs and a pathway to medical coverage for researchers who would be otherwise unable to receive medical coverage during a pandemic that disproportionately kills Black people. And our new teams are wasting no time in crafting the new solutions to create a safer, healthier, and thriving communities. More researchers are joining us this week and the next few weeks going forward. I'm going to turn it back over to Sean to give us a little more information.
Thanks, Latanya. So I just want to present on a few key points The policies and power structures that shape so much of our daily lives were built and maintained at the expense of Black people. And the subsequent harm and violence is centuries old and persists across nearly every aspect of life. So we need all hands on deck here. So that means we need community voice to lead the way. We need community voice must lead this process. And when we say community voice, we don't mean some task force that is cherry picked by white, wealthy people who already have access to political power. Instead of having preset priorities, instead of having hand-selected task forces, we are pushing for community voice and community power to be at the center. No task force has yet transformed the reality that Black folks are harmed by the current status quo. Our team knows this because we've reviewed 23 recent Seattle task forces, including conversations with people who've served on task forces. The most transformational recommendations are filtered up from community and are rarely taken up, and never at a timeline that reflects the urgency of the issues at hand. We know the people closest to issues are closest to the solutions. We know that community understands the urgency because it's our children, our grandchildren, our siblings, our parents, our grandparents whose lives are on the line, our friends, our loved ones. This isn't theory. This isn't best guesses. This is real life for us. And this research team will build knowledge and solutions rooted in the everyday lived experience, expertise, and leadership of our community. The generational wisdom of Black people and communities will lead this effort. Working together, we have the power to imagine and create a democratic, participatory budget process where we, the people, decide how our money gets spent to improve our lives and communities. So very briefly, I have 3 quick calls to action that I'll cycle through, and then we'll hear from our community researchers who we're so excited to introduce. Our 3 calls to action that I really want to hold up for this press conference are: number 1, to take our community needs survey. It is available in 15 languages. It's open to everyone who wants to take it. And instead of some kind of filtered experience where you have to like talk to someone who knows someone to get, your point across, this is a way for everyone to take part in the process. If you have a connection to King County, we want to hear your voice reflected here. And the bit.ly information will be posted online, but it's basically bit.ly/tell us what you need 2020. The second call to action that I really want to hold up is to urge the mayor to free the funds. While the $3 million for the community research process has nothing really to do with the mayor's office, the other important demands and money for community voice and for community self-sufficiency, community scale up, are dependent on the mayor taking action. So please urge the mayor to free the funds, and we'll have a link and more details later. And the last point is to support the Black-led research process as we make recommendations and work to set the budgeting priorities for the budget, policy, and contract decisions being made this year. Our needs assessment is just a small part of the research, and we're hosting community conversations, we're doing interviews, we're using arts-based research methods, we are creating podcasts and videos and murals and all of these other creative reports of our findings as we collect them and share them out. So if you have skills or you want to support the effort, please email research@kingcountyequitynow.com to join us in this wonderful project. So now let's hear more from some of our brilliant community researchers. This is one of the most exciting parts, and we have a few minutes here to be able to hear from folks. And I'm going to, I'm going to call y'all in the order that I see you here. If we can have Lauren speak first from Freedom Project.
Hi, I'm Lauren Ephraim. I'm directly impacted primarily as a juvenile, and I'm also a program director at the Freedom Project. The systems of policing and incarceration were constructed under the assumption that we are less than human, and they have evolved while maintaining a strong connection to those roots. For that reason, it's imperative that our community is able to actively redirect the use of funds so that we may repair the immeasurable harm which has been inflicted upon us for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well said. The next person I have on my list is Imani from King County Equity Now. Imani, you're muted currently, but try again. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you. I'm excited to be a part of this research team and a part of the community-led solutions that are going to come to fruition based on this collection of talent that I've already been introduced through over the past week. This divestment of funds from the Seattle Police Department and into organizations and entities and businesses that help cultivate and create community is going to help us augment the perceived lapse of safety that's going to come from the bandwidth being reduced from the Seattle Police Department by helping our emergencies and our crises lessen and dampen the impact of them, to the greater society. I'm from the Central District of Seattle, Washington, and we have been directly and negatively impacted by systemic racism, and our efforts to thrive have been hampered by those systems in place. So being part of this is so exciting, and I'm looking forward to working with my whole team.
Thanks, Imani. Well said. Ms. Katoya, I have you as next.
Being Katoya Palmer, owner of Toy Box Consulting, where I've been retained to serve King County Equity Now as Deputy Project Manager alongside our project management team of Antoinette, as well as Miracle Joy. We are serving the leadership team, and we hope to provide support to the overall success of each and every one of our researchers and research projects. Where I'm personally excited to serve in this capacity is just, wanting to be in a place where I can improve social justice initiatives and policies. This research is important to me because often policies and changes are made in our communities, and our Black families rarely get a chance to weigh in, or sometimes don't even know that these discussions are happening. So many of these things can affect our daily lives and our well-being. So it's really exciting to be a part of the work, and just know that the work that our researchers are doing is truly going to change the narrative, and we're laying a foundation that will inform the divestment and reinvestment into resources that we actually need.
Thank you. Well said, Katoya. David from Freedom Project, will you please share some words?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that.
Sure.
My name is David Hipard. I'm the Executive Director of the Freedom Project. I'm also a credible messenger and a community member who's really passionate about this work to add value to our community. I think what's important is to understand how the society doesn't see our humanity, right? And it also, that's the same thing at this core that doesn't allow it for it to see our brilliance. And not seeing our humanity is representative in every system, especially in the most impactful, the injustice system. But as you see how money is allocated, you see how they don't see our brilliance, right? The separation from the conversations that really be able to utilize our lived experience to inform these processes, to actually have sustainable and impactful solutions. And I really appreciate that about this process. Sean and LaTanya and everybody that has been collaborating around this work has really done so with a lens to do that's most impactful. And that looks like really leaning on the most marginalized in our society and leaning on the solutions of those who are closest to the problem, because those solutions are most impactful. And so I really appreciate that process is happening. And at the same time, a living wage is important, but I don't really look at it like a living wage from a capitalist perspective. I look at it like, of course, a person should be compensated for their brilliance and for this lived experience that's going to actually solve a problem that society has been pretending to want to solve forever. So, thank you.
Thank you, David. Well said. We'll be hearing from Jermaine next, Freedom Project.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this amazing space and this phenomenal opportunity. So, Jermaine Williams from the Freedom Project, Washington, and what's important to me about this opportunity is that it finally, right, like all caps, finally gives us a voice, the people who've been directly impacted, right, by oppression, by mass incarceration, by abject poverty, and things of this nature. So we finally have a voice. And I'm not just talking about the voice that you typically or generally get when you get a ballot in the mail, right? Or when you're talking about the ballot box, because we know with everything going on with that, and historically what's going on with that is that so many people don't qualify. And so finally, we qualify, and that's important. So I'm looking forward to the work that we are going to do. I really, truly appreciate this opportunity. And I think I speak for many people whose minds and hearts are like mine, who've been subjected to a lot of mess and madness as it relates to police and the criminal justice system as a whole. When I say that, like, we're finally here, and there's nothing that's going to stop us from being here. So I thank you, Sean, big time.
Thanks, Jermaine. I can't wait to see what y'all do. It's really exciting work. And Nuda, from King County Equity Now, you're next. I'm excited about your work as well.
Hi, everyone. What's good, y'all? Let me just pull up my thing.
Sure.
Hey, my name is Nuda. I am with King County Equity Now. And the thing about, so pronouns, she, her, there's something really, really powerful and really, really amazing and revolutionary about community being at the table. It's very, very amazing to see how many community members have gotten together and have all said, we're done. We're done. And we are here to make sure that we want to make the decisions. We want to have the agency to make decisions for our own communities and for our own families and our own homes. And that's what King County Equity Now, this community-led research project, is really all about, and making sure that investing in community means investing in our youth, it means investing in our families, it means investing in our elders and our communities more than anything. For me, my research project has been about the rising incarceration rates on East African youth in Seattle and in King County, with the amount of policing, criminalization, and surveillance that goes on in the Black community. It's even higher for communities that have their identities that have been historically criminalized in our nation's history. It is not uncommon that there's a Seattle Police Department in Mohali and in an area where there's a high population of East Africans. It is not uncommon that in South King County, Department of Homeland Security is only 10 minutes away from a mosque, a Muslim religious center, and whether there's a detention center in SeaTac, with a high population in East African youth, particularly. I have seen this correlation, and it's not hard to make these connections. In our community more than anything, especially my community, being East African myself. The East African community has been horribly divested from in this community, and it is time that like King County Equity Now and the City of Seattle and King County Council finally hear what we have to say, and finally hear what we got to do and everything like that. Because there's literally thousands of us in King County, thousands. I mean thousands. And yet we are not heard, we are not at the table, we are not, we are not seen, and yet our youth are dying, our youth are being incarcerated, our elders are like completely ignored, our communities are not at the table, and yet there are millions and millions of dollars being allocated towards, like Amazon and like all these big name corporations, when it could be going to the communities that are the most impacted. And that's my research, my whole project, making sure that the East African community is at the table when we are making decisions. I want to make sure that the East African youth in Seattle and in King County are being seen, heard, and have the power to make decisions for themselves without feeling that they are at a loss, right? For me, the biggest thing about this community-led research is when people most impacted by Seattle and King County's inequitable policy decisions in the past now come together and have the opportunity to actually shape those policies for their own communities and their own families. The possibility of what reimagining public safety and so much more issues is endless. It's literally endless. So this is what this community-led research project is really all about, and it's exactly what the King County Equity Now is really doing for our communities and so forth. But I guess I end it there.
Well said. Thank you, Nuda. And I loved hearing a little bit about your research project. Elijah, you're next with King County Equity Now.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Elijah Lewis. I am a community business owner. I'm an organizer, been with King County Equity Now since the beginning and with Africatown for the last 4 years. And so for me, what this means to me, giving the community a voice is really what this means to me. I come from a community that we almost never are heard, and never our stories and our resilience and our success is always overlooked. We get overlooked before other organizations and other groups, because I feel like, I don't know, it's like the underbearing to just overlook Black issues and Black problems. And in the past, our voices have been really muzzled and forgotten about, and told that, oh, because history is no longer, y'all are no longer in slavery, y'all should just be happy that y'all are no longer being, physically in chains and slavery. But then people forget about the incarceration systems, like my sister was talking about. People forget about the, lack of resources and education that we have in our communities, and just that our people are literally being shot and killed in the streets. If it's not by, gang or gun violence or gang violence, or in the community, is by the police. And so really the reason why I'm a part of this is because enough is enough, and it's time that our voices are being heard from the community. We are the experts of our community. I think a lot of people look and think that, oh, you need certain degrees and certificates, and
it is time that it is time that like King County Equity Now and the city
Nuda. Sorry.
to say.
Sorry. Well, no, I was like, what's going on? But yeah, no, it is definitely, I'm agreeing with her. It is time that people start hearing our stories and hearing it from the community. We are the experts of our situation without any degrees. Not saying that we don't have the degrees, or we are not, approved to do what we do, because we also have that as well, just out of the, resilience that we have, and that's injected into us just from being oppressed for so long, and always having to make $1 out of 15 cents is what the parable that I use. And so for me, my research position is going to be one of the first things I want to do is have outreach booths that really explain what King County Equity Now is doing within our community, and how we are really demanding equity within our community for the Black people, you know what I mean? And Black people is consistent of the whole diaspora. I think a lot of people, because we've been so divided for so long and have been made to believe that we are separated based on what continent we are, that we forget that we are all connected and we're interconnected, and we have to come together and demand equity together and not be divided. And so really where these booths are going to come into place is because a lot of times I've seen census, I've seen school districts and other white-led organizations try to do research. And the problem is they don't understand our communities, and they don't know where we're at. If they do show up at your door, you're most likely going to answer the door to someone who looks like you and your community than people who are not from your community and don't look like you. And so I think a lot of that information gets skewed or overlooked, or not successfully told, because it's not coming from our communities, and it's not being taken by our communities. So I think that the research booths, to have them at key components of areas that all community goes to, for example, like grocery stores, barbershops, salons and stuff that everybody goes to, so we don't miss those individuals that we would miss by just going to homes and expecting that everybody owns their own home, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Well said, Elijah. I appreciate hearing your outreach. And Nuda, I appreciate your passion. This is exactly why we need to do this work, so that people can just be their full selves and add to this process. Ajala, I don't believe I've said your name before. Please correct me with the pronunciation of your name and tell us what you would like to share.
Ajala may not be with us
Okay.
yet.
All right, well, we'll come back. Wale?
Hey guys, my name is Wale Akinlosotu. I'm an organizer with King County Equity Now, and also I work with Common Power, CPNXT, and we specialize in voting and doing civic action work, and specifically in swing states with working with progressive organizations and progressive campaigns. And so I'm excited to announce and share the partnership that we have with King County Equity Now, where we're focusing on turning out the vote and registering voters in the Black community here in Seattle, which I think is really important, not just because of the national election that's going on now, but I think recently we've all been able to see the power that local elected officials have and the weight that our voice has in the decisions that they make. And so I know now we know all of our city council members' names. We're chanting them in the streets, and we see how powerful we can be in the streets. But before we're even in the streets, I think we also have an opportunity to voice our concerns and to champion the names that we know are from our community, the names that we know care about the same have the same priorities and the same platforms that we have to push our agenda forward. And so I think voting is the perfect time to do that. And that's why we really want to get our communities registered to vote. I think with King County Equity Now and the emphasis that we have on data and the importance of research, it's going to be exciting to see just how impactful we can be to use this public data that's out there to pinpoint the certain communities and places where voter turnout is low or there's not much people who are registered to vote. So I'm excited about the partnership and getting this off the ground. And I would encourage other people, volunteers, people who want to work with KCEN to join and just be a part of this effort, because it's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take us reaching out to our family members, our friends, and everyone around us really to show the importance of the vote, because we don't want to only know our elected officials when we're in the streets and it's almost too late. We want to know who they are. Matter of fact, we want to pick our elected officials and have them come from our communities, so that we know who they are. We know that they have our backs at the end of the day. So thank you for listening. I'm excited to be a part of KCEN and about our partnership with CPNXT.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely excited for the work to come. Tammy, may I ask you to share your thoughts next, please?
Hey everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I'm at work. My name is Tammy Wilcoma. I represent King County Equity Now. I also represent Wa Na Wari, Seattle. And just to piggyback on what a lot of my core members have already illustrated with their words, my family turned Wa Na Wari to an art space. It'll be 2 years in March of 2021. The legacy of that home is really important, not only to my family, but to the community. My great-grandfather owned 11 homes in the Central District. He also was a deacon in Mount Zion, also owned a woodlot. My upbringing had a lot to do with how well you can service your community, how well you can create opportunities for each other, how you can leverage each other in times of support and in times of success. I'm very aware that the Central District has taken a death blow as far as home ownership, business ownership, equity across the board. And so being a part of KCEN's Genesis, that is exactly what inspired me to be a part of something on this scale. Is because my family is one of the last Black families on our block, and it's very suffocating to live as an adult in a community that can't offer me half the resources I was able to get as a child. Also, I have a younger sister up. She's in middle school, and a lot of things that, again, that was at my fingertips, that represented me, programs that represented me, community members that were put in authoritative positions to feed into me, to be who I am today, to show up for my community today, are not there for my younger sister, not there for the younger generation. And so I'm really passionate about this research project because a lot of stuff with Wa Na Wari and through KCEN and my personal projects will be around stimulating our communities again, because we have a lot of like the lifelines are gone. And so when we talk about keeping people from getting into positions where they may be inflicted with violence, they need to be productive. They need places to go. You know, they need mentors. They need programs. They need to know when they get older, they can create their own programs. And so that's just a snapshot of my position with the research project with KCEN. Wa Na Wari is also interested in creating basically creating an outline for other Black homes to be innovative and to use their home as art spaces or as other spaces as a form of protest, so they don't feel pressured by you know, the what do I call them? You know, the bloodsuckers that are like, I'll buy your house for $500,000, and they know you're desperate, you know, and I'll give you $1 million, you know, and it's just like that's a lot of pressure for someone who doesn't feel like they have any other option, who doesn't know that they have any other option, doesn't know how to leverage their community to get them out of those situations, don't know who in their community to start there, you know, they just don't even know where to start. And so KCEN is important because we are bringing equity to every area that was taken from us. And so we no longer as a community will feel desperate and alone. We'll have each other, and we'll be having building blocks to keep us safe, and to create a future that we've all dreamed of. So I think that's about all I have to say.
That's well said. Thank you so much, Tammy. I have Ajala here. Will you please share with us your thoughts?
Yes. So just to give you guys like a background on myself, my name is Ajala. I'm 18, recently just graduated from Seattle, born and raised in the West Seattle and Central District neighborhoods. And with this research project, I was just mostly excited about actually, you know, developing and implementing change like in my community. You know, it's like, especially as a youth, and when I say youth, I mean anybody from the ages of like a newborn to, I'll say like 24, 25. It's
Dang.
like, apology, but that's pretty much my definition for it.
Yes, that's fine.
And then so we pretty much deal with law enforcement and police officers in every institution we go to, but throughout our whole lives. I remember seeing police officers at my elementary school, at my middle school, at my high school, and then even like when you leave like school. So for example, like let's say like the late night programs. Right. Police officers even at our late night programs. And not saying that's always an issue, but it really just depends on what kind of officer is at the late night program. And especially when we have officers patrolling our neighborhoods, and I'll give an example. So West Seattle and High Point, if the officer isn't familiar with not only High Point, but they're not familiar with the people who live in High Point, they're not going to have a whole lot of positive interactions with the youth. And then so I'm just excited about this project because I feel like it's the first time that my voice, in my opinion, as a young Black male, is being implemented and actually like heard. I'm also excited about this program because it also brings in multiple perspectives and different backgrounds as well. Because police, I would say that youth are affected by police the most, but youth aren't the only people who are affected by police at the end of the day. Right. And it's important just to get those different stories and those different narratives, because at the same time, it's important for us to not only have youth on the board and people making these decisions and on these research teams, but it's also important for us to have our elders and the people in the middle as well on these research teams, because the elders and the people in the middle can also tell us like their experiences, kind of what went on, you know, back then, or their experience even now, versus the youth. We can talk about what we're experiencing right now in present day.
Yes. Thank
And
you.
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
I was just saying, for my last point, I also like the fact that, you know, there's people coming from multiple areas of Seattle, and also just not even in Seattle, but just around Seattle. Like people who aren't even from Seattle are also part of the research teams, which is very important as well, just to bring in all that background information.
Thank you. Well said, Ajala. I know that we are wrapping up so that we can give some time to Q&A, but let's see. I have Ayanle on my list, and then Latanya.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum to my kinfolks. I know I've seen most of you guys around. My main man, Anthony Powers, is not here to do his piece, so I gotta say something. So before I begin, you know, I always honor my roots and where I come from. And I wanna begin by an African proverb, a Somali one, that says, hadalkaaga inta meel walba laga maqli lahaa, waxa ka wanaagsan in ficilkaaga meel walba laga arko. Meaning that instead of your words being heard everywhere, it's better that your action is seen everywhere. So this is the work that we're doing. For so long, we spoke about the issues, what's going on in our community. We had rallies, we had protests, but now we got to put that action to work. And so this proverb is saying it's better that we are seen everywhere. And I know with this group, we're not in competition, but we're together here collaborating with one another, uplifting one another, sharing strategy with one another, so that we can produce some powerful results. And one of the things that I'm excited about with my organization and with my team is that we are going to provide a report that is quantitative and qualitative, because we come from a culture that tells stories. Let's not forget, let's not get into that European dominant mindset and start doing numbers, but think about the powerful stories that we're gonna capture and put that into the digital world.
Right.
So that these external stakeholders, when they see us and when they get this report, not only they will have quantitative report, but also they'll learn that this powerful culture is telling stories through art, is telling stories through video, generational stories, not only stories from the youngsters, but our parents, how they struggled to get us where we are today, and we are very thankful to them. And again, I'm excited to be part of it. My brother Anthony has some powerful statement that he forwarded to the team, to the leadership. Like I said, we always talk about our achievement gap. We talk about the disparities. We talk about we're not hitting this and we're not hitting that. But one thing that they forgot about is the value gap that we bring to the table, to these policy making tables. They keep forgetting about that. We were the example of mankind before colonization came, before slavery, before anything else. It was Black folks doing their thing. And now we got the opportunity to show the mayor, the city council, everybody that is involved, that is looking at this research, that we're gonna be some people to be reckoned with, and we're here to stay, and we're gonna bring some change. So I love you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, y'all.
Peace. Thank you. Well said. Latanya, I believe I'm passing this off to you. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Ayanle. Also, Anthony did send us a statement. So Anthony is with Bridging Cultural Gaps, and I'm just going to read a statement that he forwarded to us. He wasn't able to join. Building Cultural Gaps is excited about this research project because we understand through our work and lived experience that the solutions are most commonly found amongst the people. The focus of our particular research team is to find ways in which we can utilize monies divested from the Seattle Police Department to fund infrastructure and system within our communities that will help to undo some of the conditional causes that led to many of the issues that our people see today. We intend to go beyond research in and of itself, and go the extra mile to publish quarterly reports that can be used to assist progress being made towards accomplishing our goals and making them a reality. As community members, we understand that when some people hear the terminology defund the police, they may get fearful, as most of us have gotten accustomed to over-policing. We have joined this effort because we know that defunding, or in other words, divestment, is actually a safer approach. It is similar to when someone fears their house being broken into, so they spend money on a home security alarm. and they believe that it is a useful way to making their money protect themselves. We believe that when we change the conditions that led someone to want to break into your house in the first place, that is a much better investment of your money. We aim to find solutions to societal ills, many of which are rooted in systemic issues around racist practices in the past. And when we uproot those long-standing ills, it will bring healing and productivity amongst all communities in our society.
Well said. Thank you for reading that statement from Bridging Cultural Gaps, Anthony Powers. Excellent. So we're going to launch into Q&A. We're a little bit over time, but I do think we have some time for enough questions. Thanks for y'all, press, for sending them to me in the chat so I can kind of see them all in one place. The first question that I see here, where did it go? Is from Daniel Beekman. Can you or someone else describe what the community researchers will be doing? What will the research look like on the ground, and what's the timeline for this project? I think some of the community researchers have highlighted some really important projects, so I won't speak too much to those, but I will say that, of course, the community needs assessment survey is a part of this. It is a big way for us to understand what the needs of the community are and to try to meet those urgent needs as quickly as possible. The second piece of research, of course, is related to the participatory budgeting process. So we know that 2021's budget, which a lot of decisions and conversations are happening now. Tomorrow, the mayor will be releasing her budget, and there's a whole back and forth between city council and mayor's office, usually as part of a budgeting process. For 2021, what we're really pushing for is for there to be a participatory budgeting process where like we the people, community folks, people who live, work, have a relationship to Seattle get to decide what happens to the budget, or at least, a robust portion of it as it gets divested from public safety, but also, looking at other monies that have been identified and have people decide, so not task forces or anything like that. So one of the really exciting things is that this year we are really setting what that PB process, framing it up and getting community ready. Since we know that COVID-19 will not be going away, next year will be more of an internet, online focused PB process. In the past, when Seattle has done participatory budgeting, we've relied a lot on libraries and physical spaces where people can congregate. Now, because of what the situations with COVID-19, people staying home, schools being online, work being online, the internet is definitely an important resource. And it is also true that there are significant racial gaps in terms of access to quality, high-speed internet, as well as devices. So a big part of our research effort this year is to get community ready so that people can robustly participate in next year's PB process. What that looks like in terms of timeline is in the next few weeks, we will be doing a lot of conversations as well as testing different frameworks to see what is going to be the most accessible for our community. And you'll be able to follow us along on the research podcast to see how that is going. The second piece of your question, which is like, what are some other pieces that are happening? We also know that there will continue to be conversations and research around alternatives, civilian alternatives to 911. We also know that there's going to be focusing on the policing system more holistically, so not just police. There'll be community conversations and interviews with people who have different relationships with policing, as well as people, the policing system, as well as people who currently work in positions that would be transitioned to other roles. Looking through the next few questions, have enough time for maybe two more. And I might call Latanya to help me answer some of these. I see some questions about just kind of sequencing wise. It's like, we have researchers. And so, yes, so the city council, when we went to city council and we talked about the importance of this work and laid out the blueprint and said, here's work that we've already started to put together, but should be funded robustly in order to have a robust participatory budgeting process and to have community scale up and to have the research and insights that we need to really have community voice inform the budgeting process for now moving forward. The plan initially was to be able to start the paid part of the research as soon as possible. So when the city council passed it, we were really hoping that things would be going along smoothly. Of course, we did expect that the mayor would veto those bills, and she did. And then there was the effort to encourage city council to follow through in the override, which they did. So yes, we've moved forward with mostly like promises of seed money and our own funds for now to try to get these community organizations, started as soon as possible, because budgeting decisions happen now and we can't wait, however long it's going to take for the money to leave the city's, I don't know what it's called, but like we can't wait for that full transfer of the money to happen before getting people onboarded and scaled up. And I only have enough time for one more question. There are a couple of questions about task forces, which I think we've spoken to, but basically I think what's really important for people to realize is that we are very adamant that community voice should be front and center in this work. That means that, we want, a robust, diverse group of people working to talk with community to identify what the priorities should be moving forward. That means that we expect that whoever is making these decisions is part of the community, has lived experience, knows what the solutions are, and can be able to stay in close communication with the political and budgetary process. So I think I will end it there. Latanya, do you think there's any final words? You're my co-host for our podcast. It's just like, am I forgetting something?
No, I think you nailed it. Just a reminder, those calls to action. Take the survey.
Take the survey.
Tell the city to free the funds.
Yes.
And if you want to be a volunteer, we got a lot of volunteers. We would love some more. Please email us at research@kingcountyequitynow.com. And, join the fun. This is going to be, this is a great opportunity to be part of something historic and reimagining a new world for everyone is just, it's a great opportunity. And, as everyone was saying, it's great to be able to have a voice in that. That's all I got.
Thanks, Latanya. And thank you to our community researchers who've been working tirelessly,
yes.
Even before they joined the team, but just working really hard to be here and be accountable to community, dream together the different projects, and to be able to put their lives, other commitments aside to be able to really focus on bringing this work front and center for the next few months and beyond. And thank you, press, for coming to cover this story. We know that you have busy lives, but also this is a historic moment, and we're really excited to share it with you all. Thank you so much, and have a good night.